How do you go about choosing friends when you're in your 40s or 50s or 60s? This seems to be one of the midlife crises that I think women face. And it can be a daunting task because of what's happening to us. So today, this is what we're going to talk about. How do we actually choose our friends in midlife? My name is Janet, and this is the Second Act Collective. So I wanted to talk about this because when I say choose, I mean you actually have an option and you are older. Not that we never had an option, but I feel like there are some friendships that we might have had because of situations. And I've talked about that in one of the videos up here. I think I'll link it or in the description about how friendships are formed, especially when we're younger. And then sometimes we're stuck with those friendships. But in the second chapter that we're in, you kind of have the choice now to really decide how you want to choose your friends or the type of friends that you want. You're not stuck with, the friends that you made because of some history you share, because of some things you've gone through, because your kids played soccer or basketball together. You get to really decide how you want to choose because you're at a place where I believe we get to choose things that we want. At least that's what I believe in this time frame of my life, in the season of my life. I want the option to choose the life that I want and to build the life that I want with the people that I want to be in that life or to be, participants in my life. So how do you go about this? And why is this such a big thing? The friendship thing, when there's so much loneliness. So you talk to people and people are lonely. People feel like they can't make friends now because they're in their 50s and they're struggling to make friends. And if they have friends, some of them they want to let go of the friendship. They don't feel like the friendships are really giving them the thing that they really want. So if we're building a life, we're building in our second chapter and we're rebuilding our lives, one of the things that we want to consider is the friendships that we have, the people we're going to be interacting with, and what does that look like? So I really believe the first step is that you have to look inwards. So this starts with you and me and us examining ourselves. Because we cannot ask other people to be certain type of friendship or people or friends to us when we are not the person that we should be, right? So you can't ask for someone else to be something else that you yourself you're not or you're not willing to become. So it's looking inside and saying, okay, what is the type of person that I'm becoming, that I want to be, or that I'm working towards to become? Because that type of person is gonna really require different, people to be in their lives, right? So what are the habits that you have? What are your beliefs? What are your values? What is important to you? What is not? So it's understanding yourself first and foremost. And what are the non-negotiables? Because there should be things in a relationship, a friendship that you're going to be saying, if this is not going to be there, if the other person is not willing to do this, then I'm not going to be that, type of friend for them. And just to clarify, when I talk about this kind of friendships, I'm talking about like a very deep friendship, not the surface level acquaintance. Hi, how are you doing? And that's it. No, we're talking about people who can carry your depth, right? People who are going to go through with you every single thing, the happy times and the bad times and the confused times and whatever time and season you're going to go through in your life in this second chapter. These are the kind of friendships I'm talking about. So I'm not talking about some superficial surface level thing, because who has the energy to honestly talk about it, or who has the energy to invest in a relationship like that in this stage of our lives? No, I don't, and I don't think you do either. So this is the type, when I say we're choosing friends that we believe, and I'm not saying this is a guarantee, but we're choosing friends that we want them to be with us in our old age. Because I honestly don't want to be putting investments in friendships that, 10, 15 years from now, I will be looking again, right? I understand, like I said in my other video, there are seasons for people that are going to come in and out of your lives, but I'm talking about the ones that stay through all the seasons, the ones who get to go through with you everything that you go through, and the ones you get to be there for them in their old age and in your old age. Those are the kind of friendships I'm talking about, us choosing. And there might be one or two people, there might be three or four, like just a small group of people. And you don't want, because something else again, we need to consider is that we don't have the energy to be totally invested in a lot of people, right? So we're going to be limiting the number of people that we are building that kind of relationship when we're choosing these friends, because we don't have the energy to exert to everyone and kind of just overextend ourselves. So yeah, it might be two or three people that we are now sitting down and saying, what does that look like for me? And the person that I'm becoming and the things that I want to do and the lifestyle that I want to live. What does that friendship look like? And you're not going around, of course, interviewing everybody to figure that out, but you kind of are in some way, and also figuring out if that's what they want. I think it's important to kind of, in the beginning of friendships, to kind of, I don't know, figure out if the person you're becoming friends with is looking for that type of relationship. Also, so that you don't have expectations on someone who might not be looking for that. So what are we doing here? We are trying to choose the friends that are going to be long term. And we are trying not to make the same mistakes that we made in our younger years, when we were figuring life out. By now we have wisdom. By now we should know better. By now we know how we want to be treated. Right? I'm very big on, I feel like since I turned 45, I'm very big on how people treat me. And I'm just not going to allow to be treated a certain way and not speak up and not say anything. I am a Christian, and yes, I live my life according to the principle of the Word of God, with humility, with love, understanding. But what I'll not also allow is for someone to just treat me a certain way and to be in a relationship where I'm being treated badly by anyone, and not say anything. And of course, not try to resolve things so that relationship can be better. And if they're not willing to change, then, there's no point in us, we can love each other from a distance. That is what boundaries are. So this is where we are at this stage of our lives, in knowing what we don't want and what we want and how we want to be treated and how we don't want to be treated. And it extends, it's not just the person you're married to, it's not just your family members, it's your friends as well. Like, how are we treating each other? Are we treating each other with honor, with respect? Are we prioritizing ourselves? Are we prioritizing each other in this relationship? So the first step, like I said, would be look inside yourself, check yourself out, and see if you are the person that somebody would want to be friends with. Do you have the qualities and the characteristics that you are looking for someone else to be to you? Right? You can't want someone who's kind and who checks in on you when you are not that type of person. So you're going to want to develop those things before you even go out and try to find the person, the friendship that is going to give you that, when you are not willing to be that to somebody else. And then it's writing down. I believe once you've done your inner thing, inner work that is required, is then writing down, is writing down what you want in a friendship and the type of person and your kind of expectation in that friendship. And why is this important? Because you need to know what it is you're looking for in a friend, right? And they also need to know what they're looking for, so that if you match, then that's good. But you need to know what expectations you're going to have in a friendship. What is it that you want? How do you want it to look like? How do you want it to feel? So that you're not diving into the same old patterns of friendships you've had before, where then you end up being disappointed, or you end up, things don't end well and stuff, because you were never very clear about your own expectations about what you wanted, or what you wanted this to look like. So I would say that's the next thing, is to be very clear about what you are looking for in the friendship. Is it a long-term friendship? Is it a friendship, where there's depth, where you're discussing everything, where they get to know everything about you? What exactly do you want? Like I talked about in the other videos about the fact that sometimes there's so many pieces of us everywhere. Everybody has a different piece of you, but nobody has the whole. And we end up feeling lonely because nobody actually knows us. So in this relationship that we are now choosing, we are looking for that wholeness. We were looking for someone we can share really our lives. And I'm not saying, every secret, but I'm just saying where you're able to share without feeling any, like you're either too much, or you feel like you threaten them by your ambition or lack of ambition, whatever. Or where you feel like you're not enough, or I don't know, where there are all these feelings that come with friendships sometimes that are just like, why are we going through this? So being very clear about the type of person you want to be friends with, about your expectations, about the way you want the relationship to look and feel, maybe about the things that you'd want to do together and the things that you want to share. Just being clear about that for yourself, so that when you are with the friends, it's almost like what you do when you're dating someone in some way. But I do feel like this part of that thing, even in a friendship, is we want to be clear about our expectations so that there's not disappointment. Because it's usually what we expect other people to become for us that ends up hurting us, because they're either not, or they're not willing to, or they don't care. Right? So what does that look like moving forward for you? You have to be very, very clear. And this is part of the choosing. And then when you're clear with that, then you do go out and start making connections, because you're definitely not going to make friendship while you're sitting at home watching whatever Netflix or Disney, whatever you watch. You're not going to be able to do any relationship without you taking the step, going out there, meeting people, talking to people. So you find your tribe. So you find the people who can support you, because I do believe this is one of the things that we struggle with a lot in midlife, is the lack of support. And for women, a lot of us women, we have gone through life feeling very unsupported, either through having the children, raising the kids, building the business, building the career. Like you just don't feel support a lot of times. And I've gone through this, right? Even though you might have a very supportive partner and they try the best that they do, that they can do, there's just sometimes a lack of support that you sense, because I don't know, just the society, just the demands that are on a mother, on women in general. There's a lot of sense, and I'm not the only one who's felt this, because I've talked to women and they just feel, there's not enough support, and that's why we end up with all the mental overloads. Right. So if you're looking in this chapter to have someone who's going to be the support, what kind of support? Is this the person who's going to age with you and you are in this friendship? What are your expectations, even as you're getting older, on how you support each other? And what does that look like? If he supports in, building a business, is he supporting in the new career or whatever direction they're going? What kind of support are you going to kind of expect from them? I think it's just good to be very clear about these things. And even the fun things, right? Not just the serious things, but what are the fun things you want to do with your friends? What are the fun things? Because life can be so busy and so hectic and so demanding that it just sucks the life out of you. It's like drains the fun out of you. And you find yourself, all you talk about are the problems with the kids, the problems with the marriage, the problems with the dating, the problems with this, the problems with the work, right? And there's like no fun thing that you talk about, because life is simply draining everything out of you. So what are those fun things that you want to share with them? Are you someone who enjoys going to the museum? Are you someone who enjoys going to the park for walks? Are you someone who enjoys traveling? Like, what are the things that you're looking for? And I know it really sounds like you're looking to date someone, but like I said, in some way, it's almost like you're dating, but and not to marry, but just getting to know this person and getting to share the things that are important to you. And we are discussing this so that there are no regrets, right? So that we don't have regrets, also so that we don't waste time investing in all these relationships to then just watch them drain away and fall apart. And then you start over again and you're constantly starting over. Right. So we need to know and be clear about the type of friendships we are looking to build in this second chapter. Right. So let me just go back. So I talked about getting to work on yourself and understand yourself and be the person that you want somebody else to be for you. And I also talked about, what did I talk about? The next thing, being very clear about your expectations, right? What are you expecting in this relationship? What are your expectations so that you don't go in something without, being clear about what you expect so there are no disappointments. And then being able to share things like hobbies, the fun thing, not just the things that are serious and heavy all the time, right? Being able to do fun things that get you out of that, whatever place you might be. What are the fun things that you can share together? The hobbies, the things that you can do together, the traveling, all those things. I think they're important, right? And I believe, even before we even do all these things, is that we need to really also address this with God about the friendships that we are formulating, because God knows the people that should really be friends with you and what you need in the season that you're in. So being able to go to God and say, God, this, bring your list of expectations, bring your list of what you desire from this friendship, the kind of connection you're looking for, and just set it before God and say, God, this is what I'm looking for in my friendship. This is what I would like for the people in my life. And have him bring the right people, because he knows the right people that are going to be with you through the thick and the thin, through the fun and the not so fun situations and seasons of your life. But asking him and saying, God, I need help. I need you to bring the right people to me who I can be long-term friends with and really grow friendships. And this brings me to the other thing that we need to look at is the values, right? So I'm not really, I probably started in an order, but I would say after you have examined yourself, the other thing to do, the next thing to do really would be more of the values that you want. Because this is, I believe, what holds friendships together. Like, what are the non-negotiable values in your life that you're not willing to compromise, that you can also freely talk about? Because for my friendships, I want friendships I can talk about God. So we really have to be on a spiritual level where we are growing together. And we may not be, in different areas, we might be different places in different areas, depending on the subject. But I want to be able to talk about God without feeling guilty, feeling bad, or whatever. Like having that freedom, because that's important to me, because that's a very important part of my life. My spiritual life is very important to me. So I don't want to be in relationships where I'm not free to discuss that. I'm not free to express that. I'm not free to talk about God. Right. So in this season I'm in, I want friendships where one of the very foundational value is our spiritual life, is our love for God, is our love for Jesus Christ. That is important to me, and that is one of the non-negotiables. When I talk about what are the non-negotiables, your values should not be negotiable. You should not be in a relationship where you're constantly having to negotiate your values, because that will destroy you faster than anything else. So, you are clear about your values, and then like, okay, these are the values to me that are non-negotiable. The person I'm going to be friends with, a good, deep relationship, a long-lasting relationship, friendship, I want them to have the same values, because it's hard. It's hard if you're not on that same level of your values. So whether you're a Christian or not, if you're not a Christian, what are the things that you value? that are non-negotiable, being very clear again about those values. And so when we're looking to be friends with people, to be, to have those kind of like long-lasting friendship we want to really invest in, we want to know the values that they have, whether they match ours, so that we can, know if this is gonna work. Something else we want to know in choosing is you want to have people who prioritize you. And this is very important because a lot of times as women, we're not prioritized, and we let that go by. We watch people do not, just putting us on the shelf or making us second or third, in the priority list. And I'm not saying, for your girlfriends, you're not looking to be the number one or two or three. Their family, their spouses, their whatever. And those are priorities. But you want to know that there are people who are going to check on you without you always being the one checking, that you're not the one always initiating. When I talk about being a priority, meaning you're not the one always checking on them. You're not the one always trying to make the relationship work, right? You're not the one in a one lane highway and you're the only one on it and they are not nowhere to be seen. You're the one putting all the efforts into the relationship. So you want someone who also is going to prioritize you, who's going to check on you, who's going to call you, who's going to make the efforts to actually grow the relationship instead of just sitting back and enjoying you doing all the work. Somebody's going to call and say, can we do this together? Can we go do this together? Can we, I was thinking of you, maybe we can, like someone who makes that effort. Just like you want that in your spouse. I think it's important to have that even in our friendships. That somebody also is taking the initiative. It's not just one-sided. You're both initiating, you're both doing things to accommodate each other, to show each other that, you know what, I care, I'm thinking of you, I'm concerned, and you're calling each other, checking on each other. I think that's very important. So being very clear about that, someone who prioritizes you, right? So you're just not a friend that, you give each other updates every other month or 3 months or every year, whatever. And there are those kind of relationships, and there's nothing wrong with them. They're just a different type of relationship than what we're discussing here today. So you want that kind of, to choose a friend knowing that there's somebody who's also going to prioritize you. And you can pretty much see this fast. Like once you start being friends with someone, you can see their behavior if you just pay attention, actually. A lot of times we're like, oh, I didn't know they were like that, like we do with, when we are dating people. And like, oh, I didn't know they were like that. No, a lot of times we just don't want, especially women, we just don't want to see the reality and deal with it. We would rather pretend it's not there a lot of times too, because other things are important to us. So, but with our girlfriends that we, that these friendships that we are making, that we're choosing into, you can see a lot of these behaviors even in the first few months of, okay, well, where does this person actually stand, right? And sometimes what happens is, when somebody is going through a situation, they might be in the thick of things, and this is understandable, and this happens in different seasons of our lives, where they might not be on top of like calling you or checking on you because they're going through something themselves. And then maybe in that time and season, you're the one doing a lot of checking up on them. But of course, those seasons don't last forever, and they shouldn't. So things then start to go back to normal. But these are things to consider if you're choosing friends, right? Even the geography, like how often are we seeing each other, right? A lot of times, if you don't live close to each other, it's going to be difficult. It doesn't mean you can't be close, because you can call each other, you can whatever. A lot of things that we have nowadays that help us do that. But sometimes for some people, if you're that type of person who really values meeting up with somebody, going out and doing things together, and that's very important to you, you need to consider that. I have a lot of friends that are, in different countries and we are still close because we talk regularly. We might not see each other regularly, but we talk and communicate regularly. And that has worked out. Some people, it doesn't. For some people, it's not okay. So knowing that about yourself really helps. So you can really develop the meaningful, deep relationships. And also, the last thing I would say about this when we're choosing friends is that you want to be able to have meaningful conversations, right? Not just the surface level checking on you, blah, 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 but where you actually have meaningful conversations together, where you go deep on certain things, where you're not afraid to talk about the difficult things. And because, things can happen in a relationship that needs to be addressed, but if you're both people who just like to sweep things under the rug, you're not going to develop a very meaningful relationship. There'll be a lot of hurt feelings, resentment, anger, and one day it just blows up. So being able to talk about the hard things is important as friends, and without feeling like I'm going to destroy, or the relationship is going to be destroyed because I brought this thing up. Being able to talk about the hard things that you're going through, being able to talk about the hard things that maybe they're doing that you don't like, or they being able to talk to you about the things that you're doing that they don't like. Having that space and making room for each other to express ourselves is a good way to really have deep, meaningful relationships. So not everything is surface level. Being able to cry when you need to cry and be vulnerable, right, to your friends is a good thing. Not always trying to be the one who looks like you're holding together. So this is what I would, at least my opinion in us choosing the friends, the group of friends that we're gonna be either developing in the second chapter we're in, or if you're looking to make friends, these are things I would say you want to consider these things. So you really build from a good foundation and a more wisdom-filled foundation than what we did when we were young. So that's all I had to share with you today. And I'm praying for you if you're one of those who is looking for friends right now. If you're looking for a community, we do have a community. So check our Substack community that is in the description note and description notes. And join, please, if you're looking for a community, and in there you could find, friendships too. But I'm rooting for you. I want all of us to have deep, meaningful relationships as we are, this second chapter of life, to really experience good relationships that are meaningful, that we are investing in, and we're not just wasting our time. So that's my desire and my hope for you. And if you have not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe and join our community and hit the notification bell so that you can be notified anytime I upload any new videos. And I'll see you next time.